What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another folding knife review to do for your entertainment here. This is the Protech Cambria. This is an interesting knife. The first, as far as the description on Blade HQ goes, this is the first flipper folding knife offered by Protech. It's not an automatic knife, despite there being a button there. That's actually a plunge lock. You can see if I zoom up, that is the release. The button lock release. This knife was provided to me for review by a very generous viewer, the same person who provided the Kaiser Mini Sheepdog, the VDK Goat, and the Gerber 06 Automatic. So thank you again. You know who you are. I really appreciate that. This is a very, very interesting knife. At the time of this video, this knife runs $175. It is made in the USA, this particular version, but those of you who know Protech, you know that there's a lot of different versions available. Right now, you can go buy a version of it that's got a maple burl inlay on Blade HQ. Like at this exact moment, I think that version runs $210. They've got, black with black blade. They've got black with a satin blade or a tumbled blade. And those are going to run $170 to $175. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Really interesting. Let's go ahead and get some measurements real quick. Overall length of the Cambria, just shy of 8 inches. It looks to be, it's probably the official measurement is 7 3/4. How about the blade length? Blade length on this guy, definitely 3.5. Cutting edge, also definitely 3.5. So really, really good blade to handle ratio. That's awesome. Getting that much blade, 3.5 inches of blade on a 7 3/4 overall length frame. Let's measure that again to be sure. Yeah. 7 3/4. That's really impressive. How about let's do some size comparisons here. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. I forgot we're doing these pivot to pivot now. Spyderco Paramilitary 2. PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about the Hinderer XM18? XM18 coming in at 8.25 inches overall. The Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, coming in at 8 inches, so we're getting closer there. And last but not least, the Spyderco Delica. Delica coming in at 7 inches. So you're looking at between, this is a great EDC size. 7 3/4 and a 3.5 inch blade. Awesome EDC size between the Delica and Benchmade Griptilian. Let's go ahead and weigh it here. Weight coming in at 3.35, 3.39 ounces. 3.49 ounces. So this is really going to nail it for a lot of people. You know, my smallest length, I've said a lot of different lengths in a lot of different videos, but if I'm being honest with myself, probably the least that I enjoy as far as like overall length is about 8 inches. Like if I'm narrowing it down to like my favorite size knives, 8 to 8.5 is about what I really get that joy carrying. So this is a little smaller than I like to carry, but I think the majority of people in this world really like that, at 8 inches or like between 7.5 and 8 inches. At least that's the impression I get from the forums and YouTube and just everybody that's involved in the knife world. I don't know. I might not know what I'm talking about there. That's just the impression that I get. But at 3 1/4, a little over 3 1/4 ounces, 3.5 inch blade, and 7.75 inches overall, it's really going to nail it for a lot of people. On top of that, you have a flipper running on. To my surprise, I could not confirm this on Blade HQ because it didn't say anything in the description. You can see there, it looks like it's running on bearings. Yeah, that's what it looks like. If you see inside there, it doesn't look like a washer. It looks like bearings. So that's interesting. You have a Protech bearing manual flipper with a plunge lock, and that plunge lock is smooth. It is absolutely a free dropper. Now this is a used knife, and by used I mean more so just probably carried and played with. It doesn't look like the gentleman who provided it to me really beat on it or anything like that. But it's definitely been played with a little bit. Let's go over the anatomy of the knife here real quick. We have a nice drop point blade, very classic Protech style drop point blade. Nice heavy flat, carrying out about 70% the length of the blade. Blade stock thickness is, I think this is probably right in line with what Protech usually does for their stock thicknesses. 120, 125 thousandths maybe. That's the Ritter Hogue up against it there. The black coating, you know, in my experience with Protech, you've seen that video of the Protech Rockeye automatic that absolutely gets used every single day. Yeah, these coatings can absolutely take a beating. They'll rub off eventually, but they can absolutely take a beating. You can see here, actually, it doesn't say on the blade, but this is 154 cm. 154 cm is a great steel, so we're good there. Moving down to the scales here, we've got 6061 T6 aluminum scales, which is, you know, par for the course for Protech. That's something you see a lot. Some people like it, some people don't. I like how it looks. I like how it feels. It's very simple. You have a simple Torx head pivot. You've got a slightly recessed button here for the plunge lock. Simply push it, and it releases the blade, and it also locks the blade out. You can see here, if we can... Come on now. There we go. That's how that works. You've got some milling here, some lines in the scales. It's otherwise smooth. I don't know if I'd say, yeah, up here it kind of does provide a little bit of traction because your fingers kind of naturally fall on that spot right there. The other side mirrors much to the front, except you actually have the screws. You can see there, the screws are just on this side, and they probably screw into the front side. But what it does, what it makes for is a really nice, clean look on the presentation side. The only screw that you can see is the pivot, and then you can see the button back here. It just has the seam, like usual with Protech. A couple little holes there to make it look a little bit nicer. I appreciate that. And then you've got the heads of the screws back here. Only a couple. Protech, of course, doing their deep carry pocket clips right. Those screws are level with the part of the clip that's actually attached to the blade or to the handle. So when you slip this over your pocket, the seam of your pocket's not going to get caught on those screws like it kind of wants to on the Ritter Hogue. That's the only thing wrong with this pocket clip. This pocket clip is amazing other than those screws sticking up. And they absolutely do get caught. That sounds like a silly nitpick, but they do get caught. Anyways, great pocket clip. Awesome. You have that nice divot there. It's deep carry. It's going to carry all the way down truly to the top of this. So you're really not going to be showing anything there. Really like how Protech does the other side, their female side or their non-show side pivot. Just really simple. Just, you know, flush with the handle. And then that's pretty much it there for the handles. Centering on this guy is a little teeny tiny bit off, but like I said, this guy's been handled and used a little bit, so I'm not gonna knock it for that. Though I will say I feel like that's kind of a regular occurrence for Protechs. I've definitely ordered brand new Protechs and they came off center. They're never rubbing, but I've seen that before. So I don't know, you know, it's never really bothered me that much, you know, for what I'm paying for a Protech. I always prefer to have a center blade over a non-center blade. It bugs me, but it's not like, you know, it's not going to break it for me. It's not going to be like, you know, something that I would return the knife for. Go up a little bit higher in price though, indefinitely. The action is very smooth. Lockup is solid up and down. There's a tiny little bit of blade play left and right, but I imagine it's just from this being played with and used a little bit, and probably just tightening down the pivot will solve that problem. So can't judge it there. Ergonomics on this guy, they're comfortable. You know, I can fit all 4 fingers around it. The curvature of the handle and the overall length of this knife being 7 3/4, it's just right there where, you know, I can feel exactly why I prefer those 8-inch overall knives, is because they usually have handles that I can get my entire hand around comfortably. I can do it, but it's right there at the back. So I can get it. If you've got medium, large size hands like me, it's going to be a snug fit. If you've got, you know, medium hands, medium, small hands, you know, you're definitely going to be really comfortable there. Truthfully, though, it's a very comfortable knife all the way around. I don't have any crazy issues with it ergonomically. I'm not feeling any hot spots. That's generally the case with Protech. It's really the flipper tab here that's pushing you back into that position that's making it feel snug. But like I said, the ergonomics feel good. Nothing to complain about there. As always, I'd prefer there be just a little bit of jimping up top. I consider Protech knives whether they're automatic or they're few manual knives, I consider them to be knives that you can go out and really beat on. You know, the examples that I've had and that I've seen other people use, yeah, they survive it. So I like there to be jimping up top because I can imagine myself putting some pressure into some cuts, and I like having a spot on the blade where my thumb is fixed, or it helps me keep my thumb in place if I need to do that. I think this is an excellent size of EDC knife. You know, truthfully, I would prefer the handle be straight, but that's a preference thing. I can't really knock it on that. You know, that's just a design feature that some people are really going to like and some people aren't. I'd rather have a curved handle than a curved blade. I'm not a fan of recurved blades or anything like that. And it does put you in a unique position while you're cutting, because it kind of angles the position you want to put your hand in. It kind of angles the blade downward. So I don't know, maybe that does assist some people in cutting. Let's talk about fidget factor on this knife. As I said before, according to Blade HQ in the description, this is the only flipper knife that is in Protech's lineup. It's also a manual knife, meaning no spring. So that's different for Protech as well. So you've got a manual plunge lock flipper knife running on bearings in Protech's lineup for $175. Fidget factor is off the charts on this guy. You could see it there. I'm just playing with this on camera over and over and over again. It's really fun to push that button and watch the blade drop. This knife is light, but still manages, light and small, but it still manages to feel like a full-size knife. I'm not sure exactly what it is there, but this is a really fun knife to play with. The detent is light. It's definitely a light detent, but because of the way the flipper tab is shaped, and I guess just the combination of the mechanism, you see there's a little bit of jimping there on the flipper tab. It's so easy to flip. I mean, it flips so readily, you know. Yeah, whether you push button it or you light switch it, it's gonna flip. It's one of those weird circumstances where despite it having a light detent, it's still able to flip readily. A lot of times a light detent causes the problem with a flipper knife, and it doesn't want to flip all the way. You know, that's what Rick Hinderer knives had a problem with for so long, is the light detents and people having to use wrists to flip them. I'm not getting that in this knife, and it's really cool. The combination of that and the plunge lock or the button lock, it's just fun. It's fun to let it drop shut if you can catch it on, if you can keep it from bouncing back out. And it's also fun to kind of whip it shut. What I find is that I flipped it out like that intentionally so I could show you. I either don't get it quite enough and it stops right there, or because the detent is so light, it'll actually hit and bounce back out. I'll show you what I mean. If I can get it to do that. It'll do that, and I had to whip it pretty hard. Not super hard, but I had to whip it hard to give you that example. But there's an example of one of the times it didn't go quite there, and now see it hit, but it bounced back out. So that's the only issue with the light detent, is when you're closing it, you have to, you know, go through an extra motion to push the blade into the handle to get it to completely close. Those are nitpicks. My true thoughts on this knife is that this thing is awesome. $175, I don't think that's bad, you know, whether it's a Protech or whether, I mean, you know, Benchmade makes some knives in 154 cm or S30V that have G10 or some aluminum. Then they're charging $175, $180 for them. And I kind of cringe at that a little bit. And the reason is because Benchmade has and I'm pulling them in for a specific reason, because that's kind of their, you know, $150 to $200. That's kind of like the Benchmade zone. They got a lot of knives in that price range, as do Protech. But Protech to me is like, you know, they're in line with what to expect in terms of production quality with Benchmade, or where Benchmade should be. The problem with Benchmade is they have quality control issues. Other than some centering issues here and there with Protech, I generally do not have any problems with Protech. And so $175 to get a Protech that's made oftentimes with the same materials that you can expect from Benchmade, I think that's a great price. If Benchmade would get their quality control, you know, up to par with what the rest of the world expects for this price range, then I wouldn't have a problem with some of their prices either. I'd still might wince at them a little bit, you know, but it's just like, yeah, would this knife be more amazing at $150? Well, sure, but do I think it's fair at $175? Yeah, you know, it's cool. This Protech has a flipper tab on it. It's running on bearings as far as I can tell without taking it apart. And it's got a plunge lock or a button lock. That's kind of the thing right now. It's kind of in, you know. People like these, and it's why they're sold out. So yeah, I can absolutely recommend this knife. You know, this is one of those shorter, easier reviews where I don't have to talk forever, because it's kind of like, well, yeah, it's really cool. I love this. I don't really have hardly anything to complain about here. And on top of that, it's absolutely going to make an excellent EDC. It's super simple. It's light, easy to carry. The shape of it, you know, the curvature of the handle, a lot of people are going to like that. I mean, the blade shape's great for everyday cutting tasks, and you get a lot of blade for the package in this knife. Really, really cool. It's absolutely going to go on my playlist of the most recommended knives that I've ever handled. So definitely check this out if you get a chance. They come back in stock and there's a style that you want. Definitely go for it. These are awesome. That is going to be pretty much it for today's review, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. And if you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So please check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel, because there is definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.